General Hospital spoilers tease that the whispers start as they always do in Port Charles, quiet, almost hesitant, as though speaking them too loudly might make them vanish. But by the end of the week, Morgan Corinthos' name is everywhere. It's in the murmured speculation at Kelly's, woven into side conversations at the Metro Court, and even finds its way into the guarded tones of those who should know better than to fan the flames of rumor. What began as a few offhand references has grown into a pulse of anticipation, the city itself holding its breath. For those who remember, Morgan's death in 2016 was more than just another tragic headline. It was a seismic shift, the kind that left scars on the people who loved him and on the community that had been both his safety net and his battleground. The car bomb meant for Julian Jerome had been a brutal punctuation mark in a life already marked by chaos. The wreckage had been definitive in the eyes of many, and yet, in Port Charles, finality is a slippery thing. Brian Craig's portrayal had been raw and combustible, a blend of charm and volatility that made Morgan impossible to forget. Now, his name has returned to the spotlight, not through official announcements, but through a trail of breadcrumbs, cryptic posts on social media, sly mentions in interviews, and that brief, almost surreal moment in August 2024 when he appeared on screen, a figment of Sonny's manic mind. Fans had clung to that fleeting glimpse, dissecting every frame as if it contained the blueprint for his return. The effect on Sonny Corinthos has been no less consuming. In his conversation with Jason Morgan this week, Morgan's name slipped from his lips with an ache that sounded almost involuntary. They had been talking about Britt Westbourne, about the possibility, remote but tantalizing, that she might still be alive. But as often happens with Sonny, one ghost opened the door to another. Jason had watched the shift in Sonny's expression, the way his eyes had darkened at the mention of Britt, only to grow distant as Morgan's memory took over. For Sonny, Morgan's absence has never been clean or complete. It is an open wound, one that flares with every reminder. And lately, the reminders are relentless. Carly Spencer, ever the pragmatist even in the face of her own grief, has tried to keep him tethered to the present. She meets him at the Metro Court, the place humming with the usual midday traffic, and pushes him, gently at first, then with the steel that comes from years of surviving beside him, to let go. To accept that some losses cannot be undone, no matter how loudly the heart protests. But Sonny's heart is not wired for surrender. In quiet moments, especially here in the Metro Court's polished corridors, he sees flashes. Morgan's smile cutting through the crowd, the sound of his laughter trailing behind him. They are tricks of the mind, perhaps, but they feel real enough to stall his breath. The speculation among fans mirrors the questions Sonny himself cannot silence. Could Morgan have survived, as Jason did? Could the story of his death have been incomplete, complicated by amnesia, captivity, or some other twist the world of Port Charles is all too familiar with? The parallels to Jason's return are impossible to ignore. Both men presumed dead, both linked to explosive exits, both tied by blood and loyalty to Sonny's world. Brian Craig has only added fuel to the fire. His posts on social media, thanking fans for their loyalty and redirecting any decisions about his future to the casting team at ABC, have been taken as both humility and provocation. The subtext is irresistible: the door is open, if only someone will walk through it. Each cryptic caption becomes fodder for endless theories. What makes this moment different from other returns is the way Morgan's name has been threaded into the narrative. It isn't just a one-off reference. Sonny has mentioned him multiple times in a single week. Other characters have let his name slip in conversations that seem, on the surface, to be about something else entirely. It is the kind of narrative scaffolding that General Hospital has used before, small, repeated cues that build to a reveal no one will admit is coming. That fleeting 2024 reappearance still looms large in the collective memory. It had been quick, barely long enough to process, but the look on Sonny's face, equal parts joy, disbelief, and dread, had said everything. Fans had debated endlessly whether it was a test run, a narrative experiment to gauge reaction, or simply a cruel tease. For those who have held on to the hope of Morgan's return, it had felt like a promise disguised as a hallucination. And now, the pieces seem to be aligning again. the atmosphere in Port Charles is ripe for a comeback. The fractures in Sonny and Carly's relationship, widened by marriages to others and battles fought on separate fronts, leave a gap that Morgan's presence could begin to bridge. For years, they have been the axis of the Corinthos family, but even they have limits. Morgan's return could be the catalyst for unity, or the spark that ignites old resentments. Carly knows the risks. She also knows that Sonny's obsession with the past has a way of bleeding into the present, clouding his judgment when clarity is most needed. She tells herself she's urging him forward for his own good, but part of her fears what will happen if the rumors prove true. Seeing Morgan again, alive after all these years, would undo all the hard-won acceptance she has forced herself to build. Meanwhile, the fans outside the fictional walls are restless. They want more than another dream sequence or a brief flashback. They want a full return, a flesh-and-blood Morgan walking back into Port Charles, bringing with him the energy, chaos, and love that defined him. Yet they've been in this position before, wanting, waiting, and watching as the writers choose a different path. The uncertainty is as much a part of the thrill as it is the torment. Within the story, the possibilities multiply. If Morgan is alive, where has he been? Who has kept him from coming home? Could he have been a prisoner of some faceless enemy, hidden away as leverage in a game of power Sonny never saw? Or did he lose himself entirely, memory stripped away, building a new life that will come crashing down the moment his past catches up? Sonny's mind drifts to these questions often, especially late at night when the house is quiet and the city outside his windows feels more like a threat than a comfort. He doesn't tell Carly the details of these thoughts. She wouldn't understand, or worse, she would understand all too well. The weight of it all builds toward something neither of them can name. In the courtroom at the Metro Court, amid the clink of glasses and the soft hum of conversation, Sonny's eyes keep darting to the door, as if expecting Morgan to walk in at any moment. Carly notices, her hand brushing his arm in a silent plea for him to stop torturing himself. But Sonny's gaze remains fixed, his heartbeat quickening at shadows and strangers alike. Port Charles is a city built on secrets and resurrections, where the line between the living and the lost is thinner than anywhere else. Morgan's name is no longer just a memory, it is a presence, gathering strength in whispers, waiting for the moment when rumor becomes reality. Whether that moment will bring peace or shatter what little stability remains is a question no one can answer yet. Sonny wakes before dawn, the world outside still draped in the gray hush that comes before sunrise. His dreams had been restless again, filled with fragmented images of Morgan that felt too vivid to be the invention of his sleeping mind. The scent of motor oil, the sound of his son's voice calling from somewhere just out of sight, the sharp echo of laughter cut short. He sits at the edge of the bed, palms pressed to his knees, unable to shake the sense that these visions are not just grief playing tricks. Jason's voice from their earlier conversation lingers in his mind, steady but edged with caution. Jason knows better than most how dangerous hope can be in this town. Yet even he had looked unsettled when Morgan's name came up, as if the very mention might open a door neither of them could close. Carly keeps her distance that morning, aware that Sonny's moods have been unpredictable. She has her own thoughts about the whispers surrounding Morgan's name. She had seen Sonny spiral before, chasing ghosts until reality bent under the weight of what he wanted to believe. But she also remembers every moment of the night they learned he was gone, the raw sound that tore from Sonny's throat, the stillness that settled in her bones. If there is even a sliver of truth to these rumors, she knows her own heart will not be immune. The conversation between them that afternoon is clipped, careful. Carly suggests they focus on what they can control, the business, the family members still here, the constant stream of crises that never seem to let up. Sonny listens but his eyes keep shifting to the windows of the Metro Court restaurant, scanning the crowd. Carly follows his gaze and knows instantly what he's doing. She doesn't call him out for it, but the flicker of disappointment in her expression is unmistakable. Meanwhile, Brian Craig's public gestures continue to stoke the fire outside the fictional walls. His social media posts grow more enigmatic, the timing suspiciously aligned with the show's repeated references to Morgan. One night, a photograph of the Port Charles skyline appears on his feed without a caption. Another day, a brief video of him walking along a dock, the frame cutting off before the waterline, sparking hundreds of comments from fans convinced they've spotted hints of the city's famous pier. Inside the story, the writers thread Morgan's name into moments that seem disconnected at first. Britt Westbourne's name is raised again, still wrapped in speculation about her fate, and Jason's search for her is portrayed in parallel with Sonny's fixation on Morgan. The symmetry is hard to miss, two figures presumed gone, two men unwilling to accept the finality of loss. It plays like a mirror, each storyline amplifying the tension of the other. Sonny's thoughts drift increasingly to the night of the bombing. He replays it in detail, hunting for the thing he might have missed. The reports had been clear, the evidence undeniable, yet the nagging thought persists. What if there had been another variable, someone intervening in the chaos? He starts reaching out quietly to old contacts, people who owe him favors and know how to move without leaving traces. The information trickles in slowly. A witness who now swears they saw someone at the scene after the explosion. A rumor that a badly injured man was treated off record at a private facility the same night. None of it confirms anything, but together they form a thread Sonny can't stop pulling. Carly learns of his quiet investigation through one of her own sources. She confronts him in private, her frustration masked by concern. She warns him about what this kind of search will do to him, how it will reopen wounds for everyone, not just him. But Sonny's resolve is immovable. He tells her he needs to know that uncertainty is worse than truth, no matter what the truth turns out to be. Carly doesn't argue further, but the tension between them thickens. Jason keeps his involvement minimal at first, unwilling to feed Sonny's obsession. But the deeper Sonny digs, the more Jason realizes the similarities between what's happening now and the lead-up to his own unexpected return. There are gaps in the official story of Morgan's death, small, but real. He decides to verify some of the information Sonny has gathered, if only to rule out the possibility. What he finds unsettles him, a transaction linked to a shell company with ties to Julie and Jerome's enemies, dated the week after the bombing. It's not proof, but it's a red flag. The show begins to plant heavier emotional beats. Carly's private moments reveal her quiet dread that Morgan could be alive but changed, no longer the son she remembers. She knows from experience that survival doesn't guarantee the return of the person you lost. If Morgan comes back, he might bring with him new scars, physical, emotional, even moral, that could tear apart what's left of their family. The fans within the world of the show, bartenders, nurses, the people of Port Charles, become a kind of chorus. They exchange theories over coffee, they swap sightings that may or may not be real. A man matching Morgan's description seen boarding a bus 2 towns over. A voice overheard in a market that sounded just like his. The hints become part of the city's hum, impossible to avoid. As August bleeds into September, the tension reaches a point where every glance Sonny gives toward a doorway feels loaded. Jason grows quieter, which Carly recognizes as a sign that he's found something he's not ready to share. Sonny notices too, and it only sharpens his focus. Late one night, he receives a call from an unlisted number. The voice on the other end is low, strained, and refuses to give a name. But the final words before the line goes dead are enough to keep Sonny awake until dawn. He's not gone. Sonny doesn't tell Carly about the call. Not yet. Instead, he doubles his efforts, arranging to meet the caller if they reach out again. Jason warns him about walking into a trap, but Sonny says the risk is worth it. Carly senses something has shifted, though she can't pinpoint what. By now, the story feels like it's moving toward an inevitable collision. The Metro Court becomes the focal point, a place of constant intersecting paths, where Sonny's vigil by the entrance becomes almost ritual. Carly begins to suspect that the next time the doors open, the figure walking in could shatter the fragile balance they've been clinging to. Whether it will heal them or destroy them remains the question neither can answer, but both can feel the weight of what's coming. The unlisted number calls again, this time in the middle of the afternoon when the Metro Court is bustling with chatter and the clinking of glassware. Sonny steps away from his table so quickly Carly notices, her eyes narrowing as she watches him weave through the crowd. He presses the phone to his ear, his voice low but urgent. The caller doesn't waste time. There's a meeting place, a pier on the far edge of town long abandoned by commercial ships. They agree on midnight. No names, no guarantees. Only the implication that this time, Sonny will see for himself. Jason insists on going with him. He knows the pier too well, knows how easy it is for an ambush to turn deadly there. Sonny resists at first, but eventually concedes. Jason has been through his own resurrection, his own long walk back from the dead. If anyone can read the truth in what they're about to face, it's him. Carly senses something in the air when Sonny returns to the table, his expression more guarded than usual. She doesn't press him, but she knows. After all these years, she can read him without words. Her mind races through possibilities. If Morgan is alive, where has he been, and why stay hidden? If it's not him, then who is cruel enough to dangle this in front of Sonny, knowing the cost? That night, the city feels unnervingly quiet. Sonny and Jason arrive early, the pier stretching out before them in shadows and dim light from the lone street lamp still functioning. The water laps against the wooden pilings with a hollow rhythm. Minutes tick by. Then, at the far end, a figure emerges from the darkness. The walk is slow, deliberate, the face obscured by a hood drawn tight. Sonny's breath catches, something about the stride, the tilt of the head, hits him in the chest like a fist. Jason stays a step behind, watching every movement. The figure stops a few yards away. Hands lift the hood back, and the world narrows to that one moment. It's him. Or at least, it looks like him. Morgan's hair is longer, his face leaner, eyes carrying a weight that wasn't there before. For a moment, neither man moves. Then Sonny steps forward, his voice breaking as he says his son's name. Morgan's reply is quiet, uncertain, as if testing the sound of it on his own tongue. The questions flood in: where has he been, why didn't he come home, but the answers don't come in neat, packaged truths. There are gaps in his memory, pieces of the past 8 years that feel like shadows he can't catch. He remembers the explosion, the blinding heat, then waking somewhere unfamiliar, with strangers whose names he no longer recalls. What he does remember is the sense of being watched, controlled, moved from place to place until eventually, the watchfulness faded and he was left to wander. Jason listens carefully, catching the inconsistencies, the way Morgan's story skips certain details, how his eyes shift when the subject of those missing years comes up. Something isn't right, but this isn't the moment to press. Sonny is too close, too raw. For him, the only thing that matters is that Morgan is standing there. Carly's reaction, when Sonny calls her to the pier, is a mix of disbelief and instinctive pull. She runs to him, pulling him into her arms, but even in the embrace she notices the subtle stiffness, as if he's not used to being touched. Tears blur her vision, and she tells herself the rest can be untangled later. The days that follow are a whirlwind. News of Morgan's return spreads through Port Charles, setting off waves of relief, joy, and suspicion in equal measure. Sonny wants to keep him close, shield him from questions until he's ready to speak. Carly agrees, though privately she begins to watch him more closely, picking up on small tells, a hesitation when certain names are mentioned, the way he avoids looking at photographs from before. Jason keeps his distance, choosing to investigate quietly. He's certain someone engineered Morgan's survival, and equally certain that whoever it was still has a hold on him. He digs into the shell company from his earlier lead, tracing it to offshore accounts and eventually to a network known for leveraging hostages as assets. The implication is clear: Morgan wasn't just lost. He was kept. The truth, when it comes, will not be clean. Jason knows it. Carly fears it. Sonny refuses to consider it. But the closer they get, the more it becomes clear that Morgan's return is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of another fight, one that could pull all of them into a dangerous game. As September light fades earlier each day, the Corinthos family stands on unstable ground. There is love in their reunion, fierce and undeniable, but there is also a shadow in Morgan's eyes that no one can yet name. Whether it's the residue of trauma or the mark of a deeper secret remains to be seen. And somewhere, in the parts of his mind still locked away, Morgan knows there are truths that could either save him or destroy everything he's just come back to.